the presence of elephants, I have a tendency not to. You might think, yeah, sure, not to talk as much as I normally probably would. And I think the thing because of that is just nice to be in a really peaceful environment with them. To give you a little sort of touch of the senses this morning, we've talked about the temperature. It's about, yeah, it's starting to warm up a little bit, ever so slightly. There's a beautiful sweet smell, and I always talk about that sweet smell that grass has early in the morning, and it really does add to the atmosphere here. They're just starting to move off. We'll stick with them for a little bit. Just want to make sure that female behind is okay. And once they get to know us a little bit, we might go a little bit closer. At the moment, the road that we're on just sort of goes around with them, so I'm not going to drive off-road at the moment for any reason. There's no need to. The Dyker there. Can you see him, Andrew? Just in there, mate. There's that log, that tree that's fallen over. Go straight in there where you are. Straight in. There's a little Dyker just in there hiding. Elephant's just flushed him out. There you go. You can just see his ears moving just there. Little grey Dyker. Dyker is spelled D-U-I-K-E-R. It's a small antelope that dives through the undergrowth in that manner and hides in those little thickets. And Dyker in Afrikaans means diver. That's exactly what they do. They dive through that vegetation. You can't really see him. You might see him if I start up the vehicle, but lovely little antelope. You normally just see them fleeting through the bush, but he's just dropped down again to hide. I'm going to stick with these ellies for a bit. Just going to move around. There's a nice individual here. And you start to see there's a couple of birds flying around with the elephants. Flying around with the elephants. Flying around as the elephants are browsing and grazing. Can you get in there, Andrew? I don't know if you can. I'll just come in here and we'll just let this individual just make the moves and dictate what she wants to do. Now, those birds that I was talking about, you'll see a lot of these little black birds. We'll try and get a focus on one soon as well, and I'll show you on my phone. There you go. Well done, mate. Excellent. Fork-tailed drongo. Really beautiful little bird. You know, quite a common resident. I just find them fascinating little bird. They what they're doing right now is, as the elephant walks through the bush and brushes up against trees or picks up vegetation, that bird will be benefiting from that and eating any insects that fly off, and just keep following those elephants. And it really is a great little benefit to the fork-tailed drongo. Just going to drive forward a little bit. I really do see those little drongos going along with them. So I don't want to startle this little one here because he's got his trunk up. He's just wondering where his team are. He's lost sight of his he's lost sight of his family there, and now he's found them again. There's another little road around the other side there. I'm just going to drive around on that, see if I can, because I think what they're going to do is go down across this little valley. I can see them on the move, so if you stick with us, I'll go across. There's a road that goes down to an old hyena den that I remember. There's loads of elephant here. This is lovely. This is a really lovely breeding herd. So we might just plonk ourselves right in the middle of these guys and just see how long we can stick with them. The reason why I'm going to go around, folks, is because there's a lot of little sort of running depressions of erosion down through here. A lot of water comes off here and goes down into this little valley here. So it's a bit tricky to get across in the vehicle without bashing around. There's a little road that goes off down here. If I can, I can probably just go in here. Now here's that smell. I had a lovely question yesterday. I might just go in here and just plonk ourselves down in here. Had a lovely question yesterday about what's the smell of elephants from one of you wonderful viewers, and I do apologise for not remembering the person's name, but it was a great question because I had to really think about how to describe it. Lovely, lovely breeding herd here, everyone. Folks, this is magic stuff. Look at the light on that beautiful mama. So, okay, my girl. We're just coming over to say a little hello. How's that for you, Andrew? 3/4 light on there. Fantastic. And I now have the information that I need, and I just couldn't remember. My memory's going on me, folks. I'm getting old. It was Kauri in Costa Rica yesterday asked a beautiful question about what elephants do smell like. What's their scent? And it really did make me try and come up with some description of what they do, because it's a very unusual smell. It's a smell all of its own. But I sort of explained it as a cross between that beautiful smell of horses, and I'm not talking about the dung, I'm talking about the actual scent of the animal. And then I sort of said, if you can imagine that with like a really nice sort of cattle smell, but then you get some herbs or some sort of run your hand through a herb garden and mix all that together in your head, and you get this really beautiful musty smell of elephant. And I just got a waft of that as we were coming up to these individuals here. Now, that's a beautiful sight to see that youngster. And there's what I was talking about before. Just in front of that adult female there, you'll see that little fork-tailed drongo. See him just sitting there on the left of the screen, waiting for a little insect to fly off. Really lovely to see animals interacting and benefiting from one another. And that's why, when somebody says to you, oh, how does it all fit together? How does this ecosystem and these habitats fit together? Every single thing that we're looking at right in front of us, elephant, grass, plants, bird, it all is connected. So I wanted to give you a little bit more about the senses. So we did the temperature and the smell of the grass and everything, and a waft of that elephant scent as well. And just to tell you a little bit about the sound at the moment, all we've got really is the couple of different bird species in the background being noisy, a couple of starlings and yeah, loads of different birds in the background. And then we've got this sort of gentle sort of sound of the elephants gardening, really. They're just ripping up bits of grass and taking bits of foliage off trees. It's a very, very peaceful setting, folks, and I'm so glad to have you on board. If you do have any questions, please, you can tweet us at #SafariLive, if you're tweeting us, and questions@wildearth.tv if you want to email us, and we'd be more than happy to answer them. And as I always say, if I don't know the answer to the question, I'll look it up for you, I'll find out about it for you and come back to you. I had a question yesterday about, really good one, about why hyenas have a tendency to be always laying on the road. I'm yet to ask a couple of the other guides about it and see what their thoughts are, but we'll come back to you on that one. It won't be necessarily a definitive answer, because I think everyone will have their own opinion on it, but it'll be an answer nonetheless. And yeah, honestly, we look at these things and we learn so much when we're out here from you as well, which is really important. You're a big part of this. If it wasn't for you watching, we wouldn't be here. So if you've got those questions, shoot them through. We'd be love to hear from you. And everyone, welcome aboard this morning on this beautiful, beautiful morning on Kunyuma and Arathusa Game Reserves in Sabi Sands. It's beautiful, beautiful, Andrew, hey?
It's wonderful.
Just magic, mate.
And it's starting to warm up, so it's getting even better.
Welcome aboard, Tula. Lovely to have you with us. Tula's just sent us a tweet and wants to know if elephants sleep like horses. Tula, the sleeping habits of elephants vary. I've seen elephants in areas of Zimbabwe, for example, that aren't as comfortable as these elephants are with us here. Not behaving like other elephants in other places. And what I'm trying to say there is they might not be as comfortable or conditioned or habituated. When I've worked in areas like this and I've seen elephants that are very comfortable, you find elephants lying down sometimes, even to sleep, when they're comfortable in a nice breeding herd where they've got lots of support. So sometimes there'll be a standing up period of sleep, but they also will lie down when the things are comfortable enough for them, and they feel secure. But you do find the youngsters definitely lie down and have very, very lovely nap times together, with the females standing guard. I remember last November when we were here over in an area called Quarantine, on just probably about a kilometre from where we are now. I saw an afternoon nap of all the babies, of about 6 youngsters, lying down in the cool, in the shade, on some sand, and all the mothers standing around them in a circle. It's one of the most beautiful things to see, and just one of those connections again. You know, it was like mums. It was mums, human mums, that will gather, and their youngsters are asleep, and they're all just socialising, you know. And I think it's a really, really great thing. You draw these analogies all the time, and I don't know, maybe I'm just being a little bit anthropomorphic there, but there's something definitely being in the presence of these animals. I'm not going to drive down any further. I don't think we need to. They're static at the moment. They're just sort of milling around that little point on the grassy area there. We'll just sit with them because she has got, that female's got quite a young animal with her, a young calf, and the other one has as well. Just to drive down there just to get an extra 10 metres closer would probably make them feel a little bit uncomfortable. And we've got nice pictures here, so let's just be. But Tula, just to answer your question, there's all different habits, but they do a variation of sleep. Bit of standing up, youngsters a little bit more lying down, depending on where they are. Welcome aboard, David. In Chicago, one of my favourite cities in the world. Mate, what a beautiful place you live. I've spent a lot of time in Chicago, and I've been there when it's been very, very chilly, and I've been there when it's been beautiful and hot as well, so I do love your city. A great question, David, and it's, can African elephants be domesticated like Asiatic elephants? Well, it hasn't been done as probably as long as Asiatic elephants have done, been domesticated. Thousands of years ago, African elephants were utilised for many different things, because elephants used to occur right the way up to the Mediterranean, and before the Great Sahara took hold of that part of North Africa. It was lush. There was forests and tropical areas there that elephants used to thrive in, and then after the Sahara started to take hold, elephants ended up being pushed out of that area, and the elephant they tried to many times, but it wasn't as successful as their Asian cousins. And then word got across that area of Asia that the Asiatic elephant was being domesticated and utilised, particularly in a war situation. And there's lots of historical accounts of different armies using, and different battles where elephants were used, and to really shock the opponents in battle. And there's loads and loads of horrific sort of stories have happened, and accounts of that. But back to your question, and there was method to what I was saying there. The Asiatic elephant was carried on being domesticated, where the African elephant wasn't so much. And there's many a camp in Africa, many a zoo for that matter, that works their African elephants. You can talk to elephant keepers, and there's a word you may have heard or may not have, but I'll let you know what the word is anyway. The name is a mahout, and it's an Asian word, M-A-H-O-O-T, I think, and I think there's a variation on that as well, M-A-H-U-T, and it's an Asian word for elephant minder or trainer, or the person that manages the elephant. And mahouts will probably tell you that Asiatic elephants are more manageable, one could say, for want of a better word, more easier to condition, but at the same time a force to be reckoned with. It has just never been one of those things that's happened with the African elephant historically. And as I said, if you look back in time, you can see how those battles occurred, and how the fragmentation of the utilization of African versus Asian elephants in the sort of 300s BC type of time of history. And there's great ways you can go and look up further things on the internet or in books after you've watched Safari Live, David. Don't want to send you off looking now, but it's really worthwhile. Very interesting information about the Asian elephant and the African elephant and how they were trained. I've worked with Asiatic elephants, and I've still got a great couple of mates in Australia that work with Asiatic elephants a lot, and it's definitely a very complex lifestyle being an elephant handler, but something very rewarding as well. And I have a tendency these days just to like doing what I'm doing. Hi Ramey. Ramey is in California, and Ramey's asked a really great question. Do elephants react differently in Kruger Park proper as opposed to Greater Kruger where we are? And you know, I'll just sort of give a little bit of the backstory there. Remy, what happened is once the fences between Sabi Sands, the western edge of Sabi Sands, and the Kruger National Park were removed, the elephants had a lot a lot more access to land. There's an area you may be able to find a map as well, which will show you the northern and the southern corridors, and that's the areas that elephants use to come in and out of Sabi Sands. Now, there's historical events, and I really want to bring this thread through our storyline of talking about elephants over the next 10 days. And, you know, it's just things that I've read, Remy, and everyone listening, and things that I've sort of studied and my fascination with elephants. But in 1966, I was one, by the way, but anyway, we'll move on. A fantastic man, an incredible scientist, probably one of the godfathers of elephant conservation, Ian Douglas Hamilton in Kenya, started his first studies up there in Manyara, Lake Manyara National Park, very small national park compared to others, and they had to try and find out why the vegetation was being so badly affected, and so he did endless studies of the population of elephants there, and he spent, you know, years and years with individuals, getting to know them very, very well, and there's loads and loads of accounts that you can read of that. So I've had the privilege of meeting him once before, and so a famous man with a famous family and a wonderful wife and daughter, and that elephants are a huge part of their life and always will be. And he found that when he was out there and studying, and the elephants weren't being persecuted as they are in this day and age, there was these connections. You could actually build these bonds with elephants after what the word I like to use is habituation, which is basically a conditioning tool that you can do. You get slowly closer to the animal, get to let them get to know you a bit more. And of course, there's going to be occasions where you'll have a temperamental individual that will show you that their strength and their power, and you've got to make sure that you can get out of that, because you'll only do it once. And he went away and moved into other areas of Africa, of Kenya, that he was working. And he basically came back to Manyara after there was a load of a big poaching onslaught for years and years. And I do remember reading some things, and these might be slightly inaccurate, but it's just me recollecting them, that he said he was approaching elephants that he used to be able to walk up to, and as soon as they heard a vehicle, gone. And this is only like 5, maybe 10 years after he'd studied them for 15 years or something and been with them. So what my point of that conversation, and to answer your question, Remy, was that in California, is elephants do remember hugely about what's affected them and the encounters they've had, and that'll be either passed on to their offspring if they had a bad encounter, and it could be a vehicle, it could be seeing a particular person or a particular group of people that might scare them a lot. And it's a very, very sad sort of state of affairs, but at the same time, it depends in Kruger what's happened. If those animals have come further and they've had a bad altercation once in their life, and remembering these animals can get up to 60, 65 years old, in that 65 years, if they've had some bad situations occur with humans or something else, they may react like that to us, or they may react like that to other people. So there's no real sort of... So it was a very long-winded answer, I do apologise, but the reason I went on like that was because every animal and every individual has had different encounters. Some animals will tolerate a vehicle much more than others. This herd, for example, which we're going to just catch up on now, seem to be very, very relaxed with us. And I'm going to just go and see where they are, and see if we can stick with them. So I've contradicted myself completely, because I said when we first arrived, yeah, I like to just be with elephants a little bit, not talk too much. I haven't really stopped for breath in the last 15 minutes, but I do get very, very excited about being in the presence of the elephant. They are probably one of my favourite animals on the planet, and I head back up onto this little road that I talked about. see if we can cut down. Oh, it's right here anyway. We might try and go up a little bit ahead of them, and if I can go up ahead of them, let's see. Actually, we might go down the road and then just sit on their tail for a bit. They seem really, really relaxed with us, folks. So this is the lovely thing. Once an animal gets to know you, or a herd gets to know you, that you're not a threat, you can just sit on the tail of the herd and hopefully be a little bit, I don't know, like to imagine ourselves as maybe one of the members for a little bit. It's alright, my girl. It's okay, my girl. There's a load of elephant here. I'll just try and focus up on her again and just see what she's doing, her youngster. I don't want to startle her by getting too close in there, but I can move in a little bit closer. Just let me come around. I don't want her little youngster to get frightened. That's the most important thing. So if he's comfortable, then everyone's comfortable. When you're sitting with elephants as well, it's always good to, you've got to have your wits about you. You've got to look around you and make sure you don't actually cut off members of the family and get between either matriarch or a youngster that's just been grazing or browsing. And you know, you get in between his mum and him, and he's not going to be happy about that. She's not going to be happy about that. I'm just going to drive around, folks, because I just saw a little bit of erosion channel there. I'm just going to go around the other side, folks. Whilst I'm doing that, let's cross over to see what Pete's up to, because these animals are not moving very fast, and I can position myself over there. We'll come back and have a look at them just now, but let's go see what Pete's up to, and we'll be right back. See you just now.
Well guys, awesome seeing those elephants with HD. We actually drove past not too far from there, so I had a glimpse of them as well. And I think it's almost certainly the same herd that we saw yesterday afternoon. So it's often nice with breeding herds is they can stick around an area for a couple of days or even a couple of weeks. You know, they use certain water holes, they do some feeding in the area, and then they move on. So you get the opportunity to spend 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days if you're lucky, where you can see the same herd and where you get to know them. And as we discussed yesterday, where they get to know you a little bit as well. So they get to know the sound of the vehicle. Hey, this is good. Very good. So I'll tell you what I'm seeing just now. I'm back and just try and get the right angle here. There we go. So yeah, nice to see those elephants again. I'm sure H2 was enjoying it. He had a beautiful view as well there. I'm going to try and get you over my shoulder here. Let me just... Brian, I think those would be good, those ones there, because they're on top of elephant tracks as well. So you've actually got 2 of the big 5 tracks there, 3 if you count the Jiggers one, which is this one from the Land Rover. But the round track there, so if you look at the bigger track first, the sort of oval shaped track, that little black tip there, that would be the toe. So the elephant's walking and then kicking up his foot as he moves and kicking the sand forward. So this is the elephant track heading in that direction. There's the toe pointing that direction. And on top of that, we've got a female leopard track, which is this one. You can see the 4 toes, 1, 2, 3, 4 toes. And then this is the heel. Now, because we can't get right next to it with the angle of the camera, I can't show you the heel exactly. But if you look very carefully, you'll see there's 3 little lobes at the back. 1, 2, 3. And you get that with all cat tracks. So everything from a house cat to a tiger or a lion or a leopard, you get those 3 lobes in the back. Hyenas, wild dogs, you get sort of an uneven 2-lobe track at the back. So that's the easy sort of identification of it. This is quite a small track. I must say I'm a bit curious. Might be Karula, but I'd go as far as saying maybe another young female in the area. I'm still catching up again with which leopards are around. This track has gone down to the waterhole. It's come back as well. So it has been around here, and this time of year it is getting drier, so you get more activity around waterholes. And I was just going to say, we're actually just heading down to the waterhole. We're about 200-300 yards away from Treehouse Dam, and let's say we should go see what's going on there. It's always exciting every single time, and I've driven up to waterholes in Africa many thousands of times. It's always exciting. Just coming down to it, there might be elephants, there might be buffalo, there might be a leopard under the bush somewhere, or just a few antelope. Bird life is normally great around waterholes, so it's always exciting driving up to waterholes. Now, a lot of these roads that we drive, these little tracks, they were often in the earlier days made on animal tracks. In other words, there's a waterhole, there's a drainage line, the sort of topography dictates it a little bit, and you have these footpaths developing for animals, and that's some of the footpaths the guys would then start using with the vehicles, and over the years they became the tracks. So you do find that these days many animals, especially animals with padded feet, so elephant, leopard, lion, hyena, they use the same road networks that we do. It's easy to walk on. If you were walking in the bush, you'd be worrying about sticks and thorns and ticks and all kinds of things. If you're walking here, you've got a perfect, clean, sandy track to walk along, no thorns, no sticks. So you do get a lot of activity on the roads, and therefore in the mornings especially, it's a great newspaper to read. You can come out here and see, oh, well, there was a leopard, female, looks like she was up and down, so maybe you've got a kill in the area because she came to drink twice, or she brought the cubs down. You can tell all these things from the tracks, and the roads make for good tracking because it's sandy roads, because the cars drive on it. It's a bit softer, the soil, so you get the tracks imprinting better. So you get the, it's sort of like reading it in clearly typed out bold letters as opposed to someone's scribbled handwriting if you're following it through the bush. Let's see, here's the waterhole just coming up on the left, and as always, just get a little bit of a spike in attention, a little bit of potential adrenaline, because you don't know what you're going to see. I've had so many amazing surprises in this waterhole. As I said, it's called Treehouse Dam. Way back in the days, they used to have a little treehouse, and not a treehouse, more like a little platform that you could sit on and view animals when they come to drink. Just going to go up onto the wall here. Get it slightly elevated, and we're just going to stop for a minute or two and see a bit more forward. As always, beautiful to see. You can see there's almost no wind today. Just look at the reflections on the water there. You can see almost like a mirror. Slight ripple. In fact, the ripples are more from animals living in the water, terrapins and insects and things like that, rather than the wind. But nothing big and hairy that I can see at the moment. Those elephants that you saw with HT just a few minutes ago, when we found them yesterday, it was at this waterhole. And where they've moved to now, they haven't actually moved that far from where we left them yesterday afternoon. So they are sticking around the area. Very good chance that they will come and drink at the same waterhole again later in the day. Or they could also move along either to Gari Waterhole, which is the next one, or if they go further to the west, they'll be heading towards Aratuza way. Well spotted. That little dot in the middle of the water there, even though you don't will see too much of it, that is the head of a terrapin just peeking out. But I think we're going to move on. Speaking of waterholes, Twin Dams is also not too far from here. It's only a few minutes drive, and we're going to cover a little bit of ground and go there as well. This time of year, any time of year, but especially now, waterholes can be sort of an easy place to find things. It's like sort of going to the mall. The chance of bumping into your friends are much better than just walking along a random road. So we're going to make our way towards Twin Dams. But I actually want to take the road on the southern side of the drainage line. always a funny thing, these warthogs. You see, if you sat here for another 2 minutes or 3 minutes or 5 minutes or an hour or 2 hours, at any moment, at any given second, something could walk in here. I mean, we could just, in the time we've all turned around now, and it's happened to me many times, you just turn around and something, you come back and boom, there's a leopard sitting having a drink or something like that. So warthogs, as many of you might have done in the past, or if you've been to Africa before, it's great sometimes just to go and sit at warthogs. A beautiful place like this, great view. Take a few minutes or a few hours and just enjoy it, and just listen to the sounds and the peace and the quiet. Inevitably, you will find something. But we're not going to do that today. We're going to move along and look for things. I'll show these actually. Let's go a little bit closer. Speaking of a great view, we all like the houses next to the beach if we can. Look at all these nests. These are from weaver birds. Almost all of these nests, in fact all of them I think, are disused now. So they've finished the breeding season, they've had the little weaver chicks, and now they're just empty husks really. Next summer they'll build new ones again. These little basket shaped nests. Amazing how they build them. Just using a beak and a bird brain. They have these intricate designs and amazing engineering. But as I said, we've got a couple of minutes. Just going to drive along towards Twin Dams. It's probably, I don't know, time is relative when you're driving around here, but 3 or 4 minutes away. So there's time for 1 or 2 questions. If you want to send a few through, we're going to talk about them and see what we find on the way. Hello, and I'm not sure if I've got the pronunciation right, but Velma in Michigan, welcome on the drive. I've got quite a few people and friends in Michigan who've been coming on drive for quite a while. Velma's just asking if it's easy to find, if I understood the question correctly, if it's easy to find the nesting site of a lilac-breasted roller. So this one to awesome, guys. So I just had to listen to that. That's the game drives. Remember, we're just at Treehouse Dam. We're following fresh leopard tracks. I'm not going to say anything more than that for now. But while I'm coming back to the lilac-breasted roller, it's not that easy to find the nesting sites unless, if you found it, it's easy to find it again. What I mean with that is they nest in holes. They're hole nesting birds like hornbills and woodpeckers. And if you do find the nest, it's great because it's such a stunning bird, and it's normally in a dead tree, so you've got the grey log, if you want, with a hole in it, and seeing a lilac-breasted roller coming out of that is always amazing. I just want to see if I can get onto the radio, Mike. Andrew again. Aubrey again. Aubrey again. Guys, in final control, if I can ask you a big favor, you can just ask HT just to let Aubrey know I'm going to join him. I've just got a small problem with my game drive radio. And if HT can just let Aubrey know I want to join him, that would be great. And as I said, I don't want to promise, but this is we've got the
Ingwe
and the birds and the sound and everything you know about the bush, trying to tell you things and that you can read quite well. Then we've got the bush radio, which is this one, which is the one where all the game drives and the trackers and the guides talk to each other, and that really is an extremely handy tool when it comes to finding game. Except mine at the moment is needing a new antenna, so I can't get hold of Aubrey, but we will find him. And while we do that, we're We're going to quickly go back to HT. He's got something he wants to show you. And there's a couple of buffalo. We'll quickly look at these guys. They're coming down to drink. Look at that. There's a nice big guy coming through the foliage. They're heading down to the water. But while they're walking through the thick stuff, you're going to join Hayden for a bit, but I think you're going to be back with us again shortly. So see you just now.
This is quite beautiful, folks. We've just placed ourselves right here and we've let the animals dictate the moves. If they wanted to go around us or move a direction that that they didn't want to be near us, they would. At the moment we've got an adult female coming up very close. She's only probably about, I'd say probably about 6 or 7 meters, which is about 20 feet away from the vehicle at the moment. But we've also got over on the right a couple of very, very funny little characters, a couple of youngsters playing with each other, and they're really having a whale of a time. Really beautiful. And this is what youngsters do. They joust and they have little bouts like this, and this is how they learn how to interact. How beautiful. Well, Janice in Wisconsin, lovely to have you on board with us today. Thank you very, very much for your question. Do elephants have a breeding season? Well, not as such. They will breed all year round, but it's normally the height of the rainy season. They'll give birth, and that's just to maximise their chances to get food for themselves. The gestation period for an elephant is 22 months. I'm sure you probably know that, but it is the longest gestation period of a mammal, and they would time it if they can to sort of coincide with the rainy season. That's when the trends have been known. But most of all, they can breed all year round because they actually can utilize so much of the vegetation band. They can get food from the leaves of trees, the bark, grasses, small shrubs. They really can monopolize the whole vegetation band, and it's a great thing. So they normally start to breed. You might get around 11, 12 years, the females will start to breed. It really can differentiate so much about how the distance between offspring. It can be anywhere between 5 and 9 years. It's just all that same connection that I was talking about before. It's similar to us humans. We look after and we nurture our young just like they do. They're fantastic. So to answer your question, Janice, it's basically all year round, but there's been known trends to be heightened in the rainy season. So folks, what I think we might do is I think we might move off, because I just had word that there might be a little pussycat somewhere. Thank you, my girls. That was absolutely beautiful to be around you. Very, very tolerant, and she came so close to us. It's okay, my girl. It's okay. Yeah, so young boys were just having a bit of a tussle and a bit of a vocalization. I'm going to head up here now and make up my way down to Treehouse Dam again. I just heard on the radio that there might be a couple of vehicles there, so we might have to get in line. But I think there might be.
Guys, welcome back. We've just seen the vehicle, and we can't talk to them at the moment. But as I said, well, I'm not going to say anything until now. Let's see if we can show you what we're hoping to see. Here's what we got now. Okay, just to give you a perspective of where we are. This is the dam we were sitting at just a few minutes ago, saying you never know if you sit there long enough what might happen. As we came back, there's a buffalo drinking, and hold on to your seats. Maybe something else. See where we went now, you go in here. Oh, there he goes, there he goes. I see the vehicle. I think that's either Aubrey or Andrew. I can hear them a little bit, but I can't speak to them. That's Andrew. Oh, great. Guys, as I said, I'm only going to show you and tell you. Andrew!
I think it's your best approach to be on the
Other side.
Right now, yeah, you just got enough and then right to the south.
Cool, come on. My radio is non-kinka, so it's alright, I can join, huh?
It's not a problem, yeah. I mean,
Oh, there it goes.
Oh, there we go, awesome.
moving kind of south.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Pieter.
Guys, look at awesome, nice to see you, man.
Nice to see you too, man.
Brilliant, guys. Just chatting to Andrew, sorry, we're just asking them if I can join them at the sighting. We had a glimpse there. There we go, look at that. Hey! Ah, my first leopard since we're back. That's awesome. Guys, we're going to join them. We're going to have to get to the other side of this dip. Andrew's one of the guides. Cheetah Plains. Andrew, have you got an ID?
Yeah, it looks like a Kunyuma.
Awesome. Let's see if we can catch up. One of my favorite leopards, I think it's in Kunyuma. Who's the brother of Quarantino, the brother of Q that you saw yesterday with Hayden up in the tree. So, Rula, the female we talked about earlier, the two boys, just around 2 years old now. Kunyuma is the one, Q is the other one. Not the track that we saw, funny enough. His track would be quite a bit bigger than that by now. Guys, I'm going to have to just cover a bit of ground. We're going to have to get around to the outside. So, I'm going to pick up the pace a little bit. Whee! Good morning, guys. I'm going to have to say good morning to this is a very good friend of mine. I've known him for about 10 years. Mr. Bernie, nice to meet you. Yes, I'm very excited to be back. We are live at the moment, so I'm going to keep it short. And I think southern side of the range sounds better. And I've got radio comms issues, so I'll just talk to you guys. Beautiful bushveld and my daughter Ingrid. Yeah. Cool. Are you here for a few days?
Going on to the drive safe.
Yeah. Cool. See you next time. Yeah. Awesome, Bernie. Cheers, guys. Hello. How are you? Very good. Have a nice morning. So I used to work here for a number of years as a guide as well. So many of these guys, different landowners, Bernie, they own a lodge over this way. They've become very, very good friends. And whenever I pop back here, it's great to see them. So I had to try and say a quick hello. He didn't even know there was a leopard there. So, happy surprise for him. Hold on a little bit. Sorry guys, this is just such a privilege, you know, to see a leopard in the wild. Let's get through the dip here. It's a beautiful game. So you get places where people, even doing this daily as a job, could go 1, 2, 3, 4 months without seeing a leopard. And then if they see it, it might be in the distance, up in a tree, up in a rock face, maybe hiding from them. So to see a leopard the way we do in the Sabi Sands, where it's just right here, we can experience them and feel them and hear them, is always such an amazing privilege and such an exciting thing to experience. I'm just going to try and catch up with this one. That's Aubrey. He's from Juma on Game Drive. bull. I haven't seen him, Brian. He should be just in here on our left-hand side, sort of 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock now. Keep in mind, this is Kunyuma. His name means a little bit shy. He's one of my favorite leopards. Beautiful cat. He's got an amazing face. But he is a little bit not shy necessarily, but he can be a bit elusive if he wants to be. Sit for a bit. He does have this drainage line that he can move in as well. So he's got great cover here, great leopard sort of habitat or terrain to move through. Just poke our noses in here. As I said, great habitat here for leopard to move in and to disappear into. Leopard like sort of, well, all kinds of habitat actually. They're incredibly well adapted cats to anything from desert to jungle. But when they've got good cover, they can move through it like wind. You know it's there, but you can't see it. The last direction Aubrey and his tracker, William, were pointing in was about here. Very well noticed there, Lisa. It's the benefit of having been on a few drives, huh? I didn't want to mention it earlier because the view was so brief, but Lisa just mentioning that it looks like he's got a very full belly, and definitely agree on that. So I think he's had a meal maybe last night. Need to find him again now. But yes, Lisa, definitely agree. I do think he's been eating. But we might have a little bit of bad signal. We're going to have to dip the antenna. We're also in a lowish area, so if we disappear or break up, don't worry. We will sort of even out again. That's the beauty of being live and the challenge of being in the bush. So just stick with us. We're going to find this leopard again. Andrew again. There's Bernie and them. Guys, what we're going to do is, it looks to be in the dip, but if we go into it, we might get a bit of signal breakup. So as I said, stick with us. Oh, look at this, on the road, Brian. Oh, just look at that. Oh, one of the most beautiful things you can ever see in the wild. Absolutely gorgeous. I love their tails. Leopard's tails is like a little message of, you know, what they're feeling like, what they're thinking of. You can see excitement there, you can see annoyance there, you can see, look at that little twitch of the tail, just look at that. He's looking at something. Even though, as Lisa mentioned, he's got a full belly, just the way he's moving, the habitat he's moving through, this is a great opportunity for him to possibly hunt again. Leopards are extremely opportunistic, like all predators. Alright, I've got a little place we can get into here before it gets very, very tricky terrain, but how cool is that? My favorite young male leopard in the area. Kunyuma sort of stole my heart last time. After we had to spend a bit of time almost to habituate him to us, to get him used to us. Taken one of my all-time favorite leopard pictures actually of him while we were doing that. Okay, this is very tough terrain. You can get in here for a ways and then it's going to get too thick. There's a squirrel calling. Squirrels don't like leopards because leopards like squirrels. You can often use them to find leopard as well. Right, he should be somewhere just here, huh? I've got a feeling he should be on our left still, but these guys are like ghosts in the bush. Bernie, do you read? Guys, if you can copy me, he's just on the eastern side of Weaver's Nest now, on the southern side of the Skovanin. Don't see him at all now, Brian. Nothing, huh? Oh, I like this leopard though. Score's going nuts. I think there could be a pun in that somewhere. Come on, he's got to be just here on the left. Guys, just look at that habitat, so you can. I think a pink elephant could hide in there, but never mind a leopard that's got these amazing markings. Just quickly, one of the differences, people sometimes confuse leopard and cheetah while we're looking for one. Cheetah have got spots. Cheetahs actually have spots on them, whereas leopards, even though they don't change their spots, they actually have rosette markings. So they've got these sort of dappled combination or patterns of black spots with dark brown and rust brown in it, beige as well, white. Beautiful markings, beautiful coats, but it gives them incredible camouflage. I wonder if he stopped there, just listening to the squirrel. Let's try this. Past. It's a tricky time to find him again. He's slipped away from us. Brian. Come on, Kunyuma. Oh, he's grown. I mean, I've been away for 5 months and you can see that he's gotten bigger. Another morning, so still moving. Okay guys, here's the plan. We really have to consider the habitat here. It just gets thicker as we go in here. And there's no ways we'll keep up with any leopard, never mind one that does tend to be a little bit evasive or elusive. We're going to go into the other side of this drainage line. There is a road and we can go over to this side. Try and first find him again and then keep up with him until we can get closer again. That I think is the prudent plan for the moment. Hold on, we're going to go that side. go through the dip. You can have a little bit of break up against signal wires, don't worry. It will sort itself out on the other side. So he was literally in the sort of very edge of the score. He was literally in the sort of very edge of the scorpion in itself, or the drainage line. Okay, signal should be good again. We're now on a road that sort of parallels or runs alongside this little riverbed or drainage line, as we call it. And I've got a feeling the leopard might actually have gone either into it or on the very, very sort of thick edge of it. So at least here we can keep up pace-wise. Now we're just going to have to try and find him again. And the best way to do that would be to use other helpers. The squirrel is still calling, but now squirrels, once he's seen the leopard, he will keep calling even though it's moved past, just to make sure that everything else knows there's a leopard around. I heard a bird alarm call, and then we just need very sharp eyes and a good bit of luck, and we'll find him again. Might also be that he pops back onto this road. Sometimes leopards do that. If he's moving through the thick stuff and he's like, oh, you know what, the squirrel has seen me, the birds have seen me, they're all shouting about me now, so the others ahead of me know I'm coming. What they do sometimes is they stop that sort of, you know, zigzag, jigga kind of movement through the bush, and they pop back on the road and they cover some ground. So we look for his tracks as well. But my feeling sort of tells me that if he kept moving at the pace he was moving, the time we've had to get out of there, he should be somewhere from where we are now onwards in the next 100 yards or so. So basically we need that bit of luck I mentioned. So exciting, boys, and when we know for a fact that we are within 100 yards of a leopard at the moment. And if we hadn't seen him earlier, we could have just driven past you 100 times and not known it. So the moral of the story is there's always a leopard close by, potentially. Let's have a quick look here still. It would be great to find this leopard again. And his tracks hasn't come out, so he hasn't come onto the road, so it means he is still moving through that drainage line. I'm just going to turn around up front. We can do one more run back. If we see him, we see him. If we don't, Hayden has found some antelope we're going to look at, and we'll come back when we find the leopard. But let's give it one more try. It is always exciting to find something, even if you re-find it. So let's just give it one more run. Very, very few animals more exciting to try and find, or ultimately to find, than leopard. I think because they are, in many parts of Africa, almost mystical creatures. Come on, you need one flick of a white-tipped tail or one glimpse of a movement and we've got him again. Right, well, I just heard that this antelope Hayden was with has moved on. So we're going to stay until we find this leopard. Don't worry, I've always got a plan B, C, D, E, a whole alphabet of plans when it comes to finding leopard. So, we'll do one more run up this way. Keeping in mind, I mean, things could change. He could have stopped, he could have settled down. Let's just do a little bit of listening. Squirrels are still calling. Have another look in front here. So if he stopped and settled down, that's one thing. Alternatively, he's kept moving at the pace he was moving. And in that case, further down this, on the other side which he was on, the further east you go, it opens up again. So we will have a way of getting in and sort of trying to head onto where he was heading. It's a little bit of the sort of guessing game as well. But I'm just wondering if he hasn't maybe settled down. When we saw him crossing, we went in pretty quick. We didn't see him moving through there. Maybe he stopped a little bit. Squirrel. Oh, can you see it? Cool. Well, let's just see where the... Guys, I hope the signals are right. We're in the dip. But the squirrel is calling. If we can see this... Oh, there he is. Yeah, well spotted, Brian. The squirrel is just sitting here. We'd like to show you, and maybe the squirrel can show us. On this dead tree, huh? Yeah. On the back end. I don't want to talk too much at the moment just because of signal. I'm feeling this leopard maybe has slowed down in here. This one has calmed down, but I hear another one not too much further in. So let's just have another look here before we try and get ahead of it. Is Kunyuma after all, he can be a bit of a tricky subject. But a beautiful leopard. Got these sort of almond-shaped eyes. Right in front of us here, and it's difficult to actually, the car's angle, you can't see it, but right in there, these are all big trees, but they're growing out of that drainage line, so there's a good 4 or 5 meter 10-15 foot drop in there. So he could easily be in there. And trying to outguess a leopard is almost impossible, but that one will look that side. And I think we're going to move around to where he was heading. Leopard has gotten puzzled because I heard some bird calls this side as well. So we're trying to build a picture now from just the bits of news we're getting, you know, really just the bird sounds and the squirrel sounds, and then also just, you have to sort of feel it a bit. What was the leopard doing? Where is he going? He's got a full belly, so he's not, you know, hungry necessarily, but it is still early morning. Leopards do like to make the most of sort of their prime hunting time, which is early morning, late afternoon. And a question there from Anna. How's it, Anna? Anna's just asking if Kunyuma is the leopard that has a bit of a taste for aardvark. Aardvark is this almost like an ant bear. And it's, I believe, the one that's been catching aardvark lately is Tingana, which is a big dominant male further to the west of here. So not necessarily this guy, although any leopard would eat aardvark if they had the opportunity. Right, I think we're going to have to move on a bit and see if we can maybe get ahead of where he was going. Guys, my feeling is that he's still around here. This is a nice thick area, lots of tamboti, lots of thickets, termite mounds, dongas. So if he's going to settle down for the day and just sort of take it easy for a bit, this might be a place. So I've got a bit of a feeling that he might have just stopped in here somewhere. The squirrels are still calling, but very, very difficult to get in there with a vehicle. Even on foot, it's quite a challenging area. But I'm going to keep looking around a bit. I want to make sure if he's not here so we can follow up again. At the same time, you can join HG a little bit. He's heading up towards Buffelshoek Dam and see what's happening that side. We're going to keep looking for this leopard. We've seen him. It'll be lovely to see more of him. So we're going to focus our attention on that. Enjoy the drive with HG. Ask him one or two difficult questions. And I'll see you in a bit.
folks. We've just pulled up to, or pulling up to Buffelshoek Dam. I wanted to just come up and have a little look here to see if anything's come to drink. Just come up nice and slow. Pieter was with Kunyuma, which was fantastic to hear. That is brilliant news. Great stuff. Lovely little elephant encounter we had this morning. Just to have a little recap, but I wanted to just come up here and see if there was any activity. This is always a great spot as we're driving past. I'm going to also cut back through Juma now, but I like to come and just sit on this damn wall because you never know what you can see. You just stop for a minute. Lovely grey heron over there. And just pull up for a second and see what's around. Just having a little scan around the place. Sometimes you will see a predator laid up. It is getting, the sun's getting higher. Definitely feeling the temperature start to rise. And the flies are definitely wanting to be my friend. So over on the other side of the dam there, that grey heron, I think if we try to get any closer to him, he'd probably fly, and they have a tendency to do. You can see the stance that he has there. It's a lovely little silhouette. That particular posture, that neck acts as like a spear or a throwing implement to throw that spear, that lovely sharp beak. And while we were sitting here watching Kunyuma yesterday to cross from Pete, that grey heron did actually get a beautiful fish. And sorry, it was quarantine, wasn't it? We were watching, of course, Q, silly me. And when we were sitting there watching Q, that grey heron did spear a beautiful fish. They're an elegant bird. You can see with that beautiful reflection there. They'll just stand motionless on the edge of the water there and wait until a fish swims close enough to them where they'll launch themselves into that water and try and spear a fish. They get up to about 100 centimeters tall, which is about 3 feet. And another one of those birds that gets very, very tall, but don't weigh a great deal, only coming up to about probably about just under 1.5 kilograms. And that is about, oh goodness, my conversions that is about 3.5 pound, 4 pound maybe. So not very heavy bird, but definitely very tall. And this grey heron has been resident here, or well, I'm not sure if it's the same one, but there's always a grey heron here, and they do love those shallow waters on the edge where they'll do their hunting. I think one of the things I wanted to show you is you don't often hear what they sound like. So what I'll do for you is give you a little picture up close here. If you can come around, Andrew, see if we can get this without the reflection. I've got my little app here ready for you. I just brought a little picture of this, because it is quite far away, so if I can just try and get this right for Andrew so he's got no reflection on it there. It's a little bit hard to see, isn't it? I might come down into, I think you can get a little bit of an idea there, but we've seen the animal across the other side. But what we don't often get to hear is the call. So I'm just going, this is a great little thing. Hear that really deep. Okay, we might go back over onto him proper now. But that's the call of the grey heron that you don't often hear, and you hear that really high shrill at the beginning, and then it goes into a deeper grunting sort of a sound. But they're a very, very nice bird, a very elegant bird, the grey heron. We'll put him on our list. A common bird to see, but at the same time, I don't think you can drive past these beautiful birds if they're right in front of your very eyes. Really important that we understand, as we've always said, everything fits into the habitat from the ground up. I'm just going to poke our nose in the other side there to see if there's any, because there's a lot of little shaded areas over there. See what else we can see. But how nice is that? Kunyuma and Q in 2 days. And I really enjoyed that elephant encounter with you this morning, everyone. It's just such a beautiful thing to be in the presence of elephant. I'm just going to stop talking for a second. We might have a bit of break up in this little gully here. Good signal back, but that elephant encounter is always quite special, and I just said to Andrew as we drove off and crossed over to Pieter, that's quite a nice shot just there, mate. Look at that grey hair and lovely backlit. How's that for you, matey? Just a nice another shot of that animal from the other side. You get a nice look at its body shape there. I'm sorry, I just threw Andrew into that, but as I was driving, sometimes you just stop and see out of the corner of your eye a lovely shot, and it's like kind of backlit. You can sort of, oh, nice. And then he was gone. Lovely stuff. So yeah, just to recap, the ellies were quite beautiful. Very, very tolerant herd, and that's what I love about elephant, is you just get to know them, you get to spend a little bit of time with them. They'll probably be absolutely fine with you. Just watching myself there. Sorry about this, bit of an angle up here, guys. We're going to head down this way. And if you've just joined us, welcome aboard. Fantastic to have you with us. WildSafari Live, coming to you live from Kunyuma and Arathusa Game Reserves here in Sabi Sands. My name's Hayden. If it's the first time I've met you, it's great to meet you. And if you've got any questions for us, please tweet us at #SafariLive or send an email to us at questions@wildearth.tv. And remembering that, you know, you are an incredibly important part of this project. We can't do it without you. We wouldn't do it without you. We wouldn't have anyone to do it. Well, we drive around the bush, that's for sure, which we love doing, but to share this with you is the most important thing. You out there with us and having these experiences is just incredible. And when some of the wonderful interaction on social media, everyone's been incredibly kind, welcoming Pete and I back. But I also just want to give a bit of a thanks to the rest of the team, and Nikki and Tara in final control this morning. They're an absolute joy to work with, both of them. They're really wonderful. It's my first couple of days working with them, so having a really, really fine time. And all the old faces, Will Fox and Graham and Emily and everyone. I don't mean old faces, I mean, you know, familiar faces is probably the right term I should have used there. But it's just great to be back and meeting up with Brent and Stefan, and you know, having Scott back on, you know, just catching up with Scotty and Brian, everyone, just brilliant, and everyone's been fantastic and very welcoming to Pete and I. It's good to be back on board, folks. You're amazing. Some of, you know, the support, I just really, really heartfelt thanks to all your wonderful messages that you've sent to us as well, because I tell you what, we feel like it's been coming home. Really, it has. I'm just going to stop here and answer this question, Catherine. Catherine's in Dallas, and hi, Catherine, to you. Welcome aboard. Fantastic to have you with us. The reason why I'm stopping is because just this little area here can get a little bit bumpy for signal, and it might pixelate a little bit. Not always, but I just like to pre-warn it and not answer your question whilst that's happening. Catherine's asking, you're wondering why we're not seeing more primates, and also why we're not seeing pangolin. Well, the first one is the primate species are not as prolific as it is in Central Africa. We've got vervet monkeys and baboon that we see probably more likely than anything else. We do see troops of vervet monkeys. The baboons probably don't spend as much time here as we would like, but when we do see them, we will always stop, and as we will with vervet monkeys. You go up into Central Africa, around the equatorial Africa, you'll start to see loads more primates. It's a very, very different scenario up there. But on the pangolin front, wow, that's a situation. Pangolins are not only very, very elusive, but in dire straits at the moment, and you can probably look a little bit more up about that online, about the pangolin situation after you've watched Safari Live. But they also are very, very much nocturnal or active in the cooler and quieter times, darker times. So we won't be seeing them at this time of the day. And we normally operate just on the beginning of sunrise and up to the morning when it starts to get a bit hotter, and then into the afternoon. They're also very elusive. If they heard the vehicle, they'd probably make themselves scarce. So that's probably the reason why we don't see them, Catherine. I have had the privilege of helping, or not helping, but staying with a friend of mine for a bit who was hand-rearing a pangolin, a wonderful woman over in Namibia, Maria, and she is probably the pangolin queen, and she's doing a lot for pangolin conservation, and they're absolutely extraordinary creatures, just mind-blowing. They're prehistoric, they're like little dinosaurs, and that's to answer your question, Catherine. Probably just we're a little bit loud for pangolin. They're very elusive, and if we do see any vervets, I'll make sure we stop and have a little bit of a look at them as well. Thanks for your question. Right, it's a lovely little area through here. Meanders this road. folks, I had a tendency to drive through there a little bit faster than I would like to, and the only reason for that is I know that the signal breaks up down there. It's a notorious spot for us. In the situation where I was from Bafusuk, I wanted to come back over this direction. I would have had to go all the way around to do that, so I wanted to cut through there, but in situations like that, I'll probably not talk to camera because I'd rather you just see the vision and not try and understand if it's breaking up, and that's just the explanation of why I did that. As you can imagine, the technology that we're using is pretty incredible. We've got a fantastic camera, something like that, when I talk to him, and he's like, "Dad, just fix it." You know? It's sometimes a little bit tricky, but at the same time, all you wonderful people know how hard the whole WildEarth team to bring these images to you. So I just wanted to sort of explain that, and I have to remind my son sometimes that it's not just fixing it, but as I said yesterday, we've got people out there in final control with brains the size of Texas that can fix anything, but we unfortunately get into these little spots where you'll get a little bit of signal drop out. We might get another one just ahead. What I'm going to do is get through this little drift here, back onto the other side, and I'll come back to you. So it's quite a nice little rest through here from my voice banging on. That should be a bit better. So we're just coming up to Voyatella Dam now. Just going to see what's happening there. As I said, it's getting to that time where things are a little bit hot, but we will still see some things. We're going to drive around. I might even go over to Arathusa if we get a chance. We'll definitely try heading that direction. I want to try and cut off the trail of where those elephants were. They were heading down a little valley. We might come across them again. I want to check out whether they were going across to Twin Dams to drink as well. So got a few things on the agenda. That's the little sort of plan, but as you know, you never know what's around the next corner. You just don't know what's going to happen. We'll play it by ear. It's always good to have a plan, but that plan can change like that. Man with a plan, Andrew. Nothing around here at the moment. It's an Egyptian geese. I just want to try and move on. Well, definitely don't think I'm dismissing wonderful birds like that, but I just want to try and see if we can find those elephants again. Now, Kathy in Tennessee, how are you? Great to have you on board. Wonderful to be with you. Tennessee, I've never been there. I've always wanted to go to Tennessee, and hopefully one day I will. Kathy's asking a great question, and a very interesting one at that. Whether it's coming into the rutting season. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with the term rutting, you may refer to your teenage boys sometimes as rutting, but you probably will have come across it when it comes to animals that are starting to fight for territory. Fight for territory over females, and it happens particularly spectacularly with impala. An impala are that beautiful antelope which I can never drive past unless we're on a mission to go somewhere. But impala go into a rutting season, and it's quite a formidable challenge that they put on for each other, and it looks quite fearsome. And again, sometimes they can break a horn, they can get quite injured in it. Amazing vocalizations that occur as well. And Kathy's wanting to know whether predators are going to spend more time focusing their hunting on pregnant females or not. And actually, it's interesting you ask, because I don't think that they would be focusing on the pregnant female, so to speak, because it's a way off before lambing season starts. But what I do find, and I have seen before, Kathy and everyone watching, is that the rut, or the two impalas, are so fixated on competition and on winning, they actually drop their guard sometimes. And I've seen leopard take an impala ram that's been so fixated on beating his opponent that he just dropped his guard completely, and the leopard, bam, got him. He was just taken. And so I do find that sometimes predators will take advantage of that, Kathy, much more so than potentially the pregnant females. Yeah, incredible stuff to hear. And if we do hear an impala rutting, we heard one while we were watching the elephants, but it was just a little bit ways off. It's a fearsome call. I remember when I first went to Zimbabwe in 1992, I heard them. I didn't really know what they were. And I drove out to a property that I was going to live on, and I arrived in the middle of the night, and there was no one there to greet me. It was quite an amazing time for a sort of first time out of Australia, or first time to Africa, and there was this impala rutting at night, and this incredible vocalization. I was like, what is that? And it just does not sound like it's coming out of an antelope. It sounds like a cross between a bear and a pig. It's really quite incredible. So if we do come across them, we'll definitely stop and watch them, because it's quite spectacular as well. Thanks for your question, Kathy. Just have a couple of little spots here that I'm just going to pause. I've got a really big question coming from Virginia in Kentucky. Virginia, how are you? Lovely to have you on board with us on this beautiful morning in Africa. Virginia, I'm going to answer your question. I just want to get through this little dip, and I'll definitely come to your question. But just before we get to it, Virginia does want to know, white-tailed deer in the United States and impala in the same family. I'm coming back. Stand by. Kathy, I'm sorry, Virginia. I think this is probably a safe spot to talk about this. Some lovely buffalo just here as well, which we'll cross to in a second. Virginia, the situation is you've got two very, very different families. One is the deer family, and one is the antelope family. They break up into smaller families as well. But just to explain that answer to you, deer, as you know, they will drop their antlers on an annual basis, whereas antelope have horns for their entirety of their life. Well, not all. Some female species don't. But when they grow those horns, they'll grow and they'll grow and they'll grow. They get to a certain height. They start to slow down growing after a certain amount of time. Where you see on a kudu, those beautiful spiraled horned antelopes we've got here in Juma and Arathusa and Wasabi, which we'll stop at as well when we see one. Those horns keep growing, and they get to a certain length. But your deer in the United States and the deer in the United Kingdom and Europe, they all drop their antlers and regrow them. So two different families. The difference between deer and antelope: one's got horns which stay with them, the other one has antlers which drop off on an annual basis. Thank you for your question. We've got a lovely male buffalo here, and I'm just going to gently go up to him because he's having a nice little rub on this branch. I don't want to startle him, so I think that's probably close enough for us. And you will find this behaviour carry on with the boys particularly. There's another male on the other side. I came around Twin Dams earlier this morning just for a bit of a look around before we went to live to air with all you wonderful people, and these boys were lying about the Twin Dam, rolling in the mud, as you can see, and they use that mud to protect themselves from biting flies and parasites. And at the moment they're in a bachelor group, they're in a bachelor herd. He's quite an impressive bull, this boy, and if a lion was to take him on, they'd have to be a very, very experienced hunter, or the pride would have to be very experienced, because as you can see, they've got a range of artillery or weaponry, on their head that can easily injure or fatally wound a lion. And that middle part, here's Pete. Here we go. Oh, he's on a mission to go somewhere. I think I just heard a radio call through, so he's just driving past at the moment. So that's good. I'm sure he's onto something great. So this buffalo has just come out of that wallow, and they will start to move off into some cooler parts now. And there's Pete, he's right there. We might drive up and say a quick hi. Have a little talk about Kunyuma. So this boy will be just sort of rubbing his horns through and doing what buffaloes do. Hang out and really just finding a nice cool spot, and we'll definitely see some more as time carries on. But we'll just come up and see Pete and see what he's been up to. Have a little chat about Kunyuma. Hello, mate. How are you, buddy?
Livingston, I presume.
Hey, how are you, mate? Good to see you. Good, mate.
See you, man.
How was Kunyuma?
Well, it was awesome.
Yeah.
It's my first leopard since we're back, so that was very
Fantastic.
cool. And I mean, you saw Q yesterday. I was watching some of the footage last night, actually.
Yeah.
And he had such a lovely view of his brother. And for me, Kunyuma is a bit of a favourite for me now. He's not that easy to see, as we've learned this morning.
Yeah.
But I have a little bit of a soft spot now for that leopard. So great seeing him. He's got a bit full belly.
Yeah.
So he's had a meal. And just move a little bit.
How are you, Brian?
Good, good.
Good, mate. It's getting warming up, isn't it?
Yeah, the flies are coming out.
Yeah, the flies are after us, folks, so we won't sit for too long, but...
I just want to actually update you as well, and for everyone on the vehicles.
Yeah.
We subsequently went looking for him,
Yeah.
and we were following all the different sort of bits of newspaper stuff going on, the squirrels and the birds and everything, and we deducted that he full belly, so he's probably gone for a drink at Treehouse Dam, went back, and he stayed in that area. We sort of speculated around it,
Yeah.
and it was very, very thick, and the only way to get in there was I walked in a little bit just to see. Oh, and I took my amazing... I'll tell you guys about this. This was my first walk. My first walk with this beautiful stick that Hayden brought me all the way from the UK. So my first tracking walk with him, and I found the leopard at about... when he popped out, 10 yards. Right in the drainage line, right under some... I mean, there's no ways you would have seen it. You couldn't have gotten there with a car. He just gave a little bark, and he went out the side, and I went in there. There's no food. I couldn't find any meat. But maybe he's got a kill there somewhere. We decided to leave him then because he was a bit spooked, obviously.
Yeah.
But it's always nice to see a leopard on foot.
Oh,
Just,
mate, absolutely.
Picks up the heart rate a little bit.
Oh, fantastic, mate. Oh, that's really great. That's really great news. We've just been, we went down to Buffelshoek Dam and we've been around a little bit, and not a great deal. It's getting too hot. There's a couple of lovely buffalo just wallowing just there. Yeah, so we're just going to head down. I'm going to try and find that elephant herd again. They might have gone down into some of those little cooler dips there, and
I'm going to go up to Buffelshoek Dam. I haven't seen Buffelshoek since I've been back.
All right, mate.
Yeah, there's a couple of big crocs there, so we'll see what's going on.
All right, mate. Take care, buddy.
Guys, I'll see you in a bit.
Okay, big man.
He's basically at the Weaver's Nest dip. So if you go up here, the dip below Treehouse Dam. It's just on the left-hand area in there somewhere, but it's really thick. So maybe this afternoon.
Cheers, bud.
Catch you later.
Cheers, big man. Always nice to bump into each other on drive, have a little catch up, give a little update, find out a bit what's been going on. And that's the interesting thing, isn't it? We were at Treehouse Dam earlier this morning, and lots of buffalo through here too, folks. You'll probably find these buffalo all belong in that same bachelor group there. But it's really lovely to just know that 10 minutes ago you were there, and then a leopard's turned up. And that's just what it's about. The story unfolds, the bush unfolds, and 5 minutes ago Pete was there. We might drive up to Treehouse Dam now, and he might be back. You just don't know. You don't know what's around the next corner. I'd like to see those ellies again. Be nice. Up to Treehouse Dam again. But Deb in Canada, lovely to have you on board, and thank you for your great question. And it's a good one. It's a question that a few times I've been asked about other species as well. Deb, you want to know why elephant herds don't get names like blind prides do? Well, the reason for that, Deb, is that the breeding herd can travel vast distances, as can the lions, but we find that the elephants, we might not see them for such a long time, and if you were doing a scientific study on them, you would probably take photographs of their ear notches and the holes in their ears, and that really is the only, or not only, but one of the most obvious ways to recognize an elephant herd. Now, sometimes those herds are small family herds of like 9 to 11 individuals on average, and then you'll get smaller, you'll get a few family groups joining up together, making a bigger herd, but still in those subgroups, and then they get bigger again, and then sometimes they split off. It is all very transient, and then there's like kinship herds, which are like relatives, distant relatives, or animals that might have been in the same herd that have split off, but they normally stay in a herd structure that is the matriarch, related females, and their offspring. It's very difficult to name herds. We can sometimes name individual animals. We had a bull here a while back, maybe in November last year, that had his trunk cut off by a snare, by the looks of things. Now what that means is that there would have been an illegal situation where someone had put down a snare. Might not have even happened, might have happened very far away, but it was an old wound. It was healed up, but his trunk was very short. He was surviving. He was like a 25, 30-year-old bull, and he was beautiful condition, absolutely beautiful. And he had obviously been through some trauma. Now, we named him, I think Pieter named him Madala, I think it was. I can't quite remember, but I haven't seen him for a while. But we will name elephants sometimes if they've got distinguishing features like that, or a big hole in their ear, and we see them regularly. But on the whole, Deb, it's basically because they do move vast distances through these north and south corridors from Kruger National Park into Sabi Sands. And if you work down here on an annual basis and you're here day in, day out, you will recognise individuals. So hopefully that's answered your question, Deb. Thank you very much. It's a good one. I've actually changed my mind, folks. I'm going to go a different way. I want to just see if I can cut off. When I say cut off, I mean intercept is probably a better word. I just thought about it. I thought the elephants were in a little sort of depression valley up there, and they probably drop down into that to get into the cooler shade. But if they have, I'll be able to see tracks across the road, and that's that bush newspaper. The bush newspaper is a really important thing to keep your eye on throughout your drive, looking on the road, looking outside the vehicle, and if you ever do see us do that, we disappear out of shot like that, it's because we are looking at tracks and figuring out if they're old or new or whatever. Now, if the elephants have come out, there's been several vehicles up and down this road this morning, so I will be able to deduct from that, and this is really basic tracking. It's just, you can deduct that if the elephant's footprints are on top of our tyres, they'll be fresh. Because I've been down here this morning with Andrew, and we looked outside the vehicle and there were no elephant tracks. So you start to build this little sort of forensic sort of crime scene type of investigation stuff in your head, and it's really important that you do that. Otherwise you just drive around aimlessly. And thank goodness, we've got the radios as well, which everyone helps each other and does as much as they possibly can to get people in on sightings. But this way we can just go up, see if they've come out. If they haven't, I'm not going to try and go in there too deep, because it's quite a thick country, and they did give us a beautiful experience before anyway. We will just pop our head in the treehouse as well, where Pete's just left, and you never know your luck. Things can just happen and change. But really fantastic drive this morning. Really enjoyed having you on board, and I'm just loving it. It's just loving being back. It's just great. Just having a little look-see around this area. You don't know what that cat has done. I know exactly where Pieter was talking about, because I have seen a very elusive leopard shadow, I think it was, down here 6 months ago, in this really great little leopard spot. It's like leopards have their little secret spots that they love, in a little shady area under a thicket or something like that, and I think that's where Pete was talking about. So Chris in California, how are you? Lovely to have you on board. I wonder what it's like over in California at the moment. Probably beautiful as usual. I love California, been there many a time, and great to have you on board. Chris wants to know the size of the elephant's brain, and has that got a lot to do with their intelligence, etc., and do they have a big brain as well, Chris is asking. And the answer to that is yes, Chris. They're probably the most one of the most complex mammals on the planet. If you do get a chance to have a look at a picture of an elephant's brain, generally speaking, what scientists believe is the more convolutions in the brain. So there's more sort of little squiggly bits that you see when you look at a brain. Not sure if you look at a brain every day, but when you do see a picture, it is quite an impressive piece of computer science that we have in our bodies. It's like our own little computer system, but in an elephant's head, they've got a massive brain, and they do have an incredible ability to do things more so than a lot of other animals. So yes, they do have an incredible brain, and I suppose there's an old thing, that old saying, elephants never forget type of thing. I think that's more of a historic saying than anything. And okay, let's just take our time around here. So Chris, hopefully that answered your question. And just scratch. I use a term sometimes, folks, called scratching around, or just sort of digging around the area. I'm going to do that for a few minutes just to see if we do see Kunyuma, where Pete left him. Pete left him over there by the looks of things. There's a little shady area there with those weaver nests in there, and then there's a little drop down. We'll just have a little poke around here for a bit and see what we can see. couple of buffalo over there standing in the cool of the water. They were here earlier, those two, so they haven't done much. I think they're actually potentially the same ones that were here yesterday, that we talked about rumination. So I can see now, here's a nice little bit of bush telegraph, bush newspaper. Can you have a look down there and tell me what you think, folks? I'm going to ask you guys what you think has potentially been here, and I'm going to give you a couple of clues. The clue is right in front of me, and if you want to tweet us and send a couple of answers to us, and you can tell me what you think has happened in this area. And I'm going to give Andrew a little bit of direction here on what he has to focus on, so I can get the message across to you. So Andrew, I just want you to do a pan there, mate, please, and across here, showing the people the water and the algae as well, just here. So I'll just get my head out of the way. And folks, if you want to tweet us and tell me in just a couple of words what you think has happened here in the last, I would probably say, 30 minutes. So whilst we're waiting for some of your deductions from this, from the Bush newspaper, I'll just have a little discussion about the Bush newspaper. Now, Stefan is like one of the ultimate people to read the Bush newspaper. You know, there's people that, like my good self, that, you know, flick through the newspaper, pick out the bits you sort of want to see, and then there's people that read the newspaper, and really do look very, very closely at it. And when they read through that newspaper, they will find all sorts of information that you've brushed over. And that's a great analogy for someone like Stefan. Stefan is like that ultimate newspaper reader. So I think that one of the most important things to know is that the more that you read the newspaper, the more you learn, and the more you start to apply it to your conversation, because that's what actually happens. You end up talking to people about what you saw. You talk about people what you read in the newspaper. It's the same in the bush. When you hear the guides talking around the fire, or you get back for breakfast, it's discussion about the bush newspaper. And that is all the telltale signs, the tracks and signs of what's been happening where, what animals moved where. He's gone west, he's gone south. They didn't see him this morning. They couldn't pick up the tracks. They did see a little, maybe an altercation between two different species at a waterhole or something like that. Excuse me. So the Bush newspaper is a really, really important thing, and it's an absolute pleasure when you start to learn a few tracks and you start to learn a few signs, you start to pick up information, and you can tell what's happened the night before. So I really want to know, and I'm just going to see if any of you have tweeted in to tell me what has happened in this area just here. What has happened in this area just here? So I might get a couple of tweets come through to tell me right in front of our very eyes here is something really interesting, and you can tell by a couple of telltale marks in this area.
You hear something coming from this side?
Yeah, we've got another buffalo just coming up. Another buffalo joining, a couple of them actually. Another group of bachelors. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful buffaloes. Right, so folks, I'm going to just come to the crunch, I suppose, and talk about it. You've been fantastic on Twitter. Lots of debate, lots of questions about what has happened right in front of us, and the telltale signs, if we now do that little investigation thing. And it's simple, but at the same time it's really great to know, because what we were looking for before has now made me make a decision. Done. And then if you pan just around here, please, Andrew, you'll see a disturbance in the algal bloom, or the algae, which is that green sort of film over the water here. You can see how it's just out here. It's a little bit tricky to pick up, but there's a bit of disturbance here. So elephants have come down here, stood on the bank here, disturbed the water by moved the algal out of the way, and drunk, and then moved on and moved out. So the elephants that I thought were probably still up here have already been down to drink and have moved on. So that sort of bush newspaper information you pick up and you go, right, okay, well they've been here, and we know that they've gone actually probably down there further. And that sort of helps you, rather than going back up and looking for them not up there. They've gone down there. So well done, everyone. The general consensus was that it was elephant dung, and that elephants had been They've gone down there. So well done, everyone. The general consensus was that it was elephant dung, and that elephants had been here. So hats off to you guys. I should have known. You're an incredible bunch of people that love animals, and you probably knew straight away. But I just thought it was a bit of fun to do, because this bush newspaper is an incredibly important thing in our worlds, and the more we know about it, the better we are. Lovely herd of bachelor boys here. I'm just going to show. Just going to let these boys cross. Look at that, that's so nice to see, isn't it? Animals coming to a water point, really thirsty. They always try and walk in a little bit as well, up to their knees. They might lay down even. All males, all in a bachelor group. Several of the older ones may have been pushed out of the group, and some of the younger ones as well, and then what will happen is they may meet up with a herd and trail behind a herd and potentially try and challenge another male. But generally speaking, the bachelor herds are quite transient, and you will just find solitary bulls as well that do spend the rest of their time by themselves. So well done, everyone. So I've got an interesting question. Severa, one of our Zoomies, and hats off to you. Severa, you do amazing work. All the Zoomies that operate our webcams, our waterhole cameras. Great to have you on board. Wants to know a little bit about those weaver nests. Those weaver nests, she wants to know whether they, A, how long do they stay there, and B, if any other birds will use them. To answer your first part of the question, they will stay there for quite a long period of time, depending on what the weather conditions are, and even for another year, but they probably will come down after they deteriorate in a big wind or something like that, or a big rain. They end up falling off. I'll talk something else about what they can be used for after that, after I finish answering the other part of your question. And do other birds use them? I'm not aware of any other birds using them. They're quite a specialised nest. They take quite a long time to build. The male builds the nest, and tries to attract a female to the nest, and if he's unsuccessful, he'll do a fantastic display to entice her into the nest, and after he's been successful, well, everything's blissful and happy in Weaverland. But if he's not successful, oh my goodness, it's a disaster. He destroys the nest and starts all over again. So that's the way it happens in their part of the world. But I have seen something interesting, because I think it's really important to understand that human beings have always been in the environment, and I've worked in Namibia with a wonderful community of San people there, and also known as Bushmen, and the San people that I worked with, a lot of the hunters would take out, they would have a couple of these birds' nests in their bag with their arrows, and they would use that really beautiful dry material to, if there was rain, they'd have this dry material that they could light. They could use their stick and the friction method to light a fire, and they would use that dry weaver nest material to start their fire. So lots of little things that you know about and you don't know about until you come across. But Severa, thank you very much for your question. That's a really, really great question, and thanks for all the fantastic work you do as well. We're going to move on now and head on down. We might bump into these ellies. Well done, everyone, on the Bush Telegraph, Bush newspaper, sorry, and wonderful consensus of what it was, and you did well. We might drop a few more of those in. It's really nice to have the interaction with you and understand that the more we see, the more we learn from the Bush Telegraph. I call it Telegraph because I've always told the Telegraph, but people might not know what a Telegraph is, and it's a brand of newspaper that was quite famous where I grew up, and probably all over the world, but Bush newspaper is probably a better term. So we're going to drop down now and see what we can find. Keeping my eyes out for Kunyuma, but this temperature, I think he's going to be flat somewhere. You never know. So those elephants went cross country. They didn't come down this road. There's no tracks over the tyre tracks. Their spoor went off into the bush that way. Is down in that little sort of dry riverbed or drainage line, we call it, and he is finding a bit of shade because the temperature's definitely up there now, probably up into the 20s, mid-20s it feels like to me. Andrew, what do you think, mate?
About 25.
Yeah. And the flies are definitely wanting to be our friend. On down to Twin Dams and just see what the situation is there. This time of the day, animals drinking is probably the best we're going to do at a water point. So whilst I'm driving to Twin Dams, I think it's a great time to cross over to Pete and see what he's up to, and we'll come back and we'll see you just now.
Guys, welcome back on the Jigger. I was talking about Buffalo and Trias Dam, where we were talking this morning about how nothing can happen at a waterhole, and at any second something can happen. The same as a game drive. So I'm sure Hayden had some nice conversations with you there. We're up on Cheetah Cut Line, one of my many favorite roads on Kunyuma. It's basically the eastern boundary, if you want. And obviously, we always mention this, we have boundaries in the sense of where we can drive because of different people owning different land, and also because of our signal manual or our signal limitations. If you want, you can only go so far. But this is the boundary between us and Torchwood, which is to the eastern side. Obviously, for the animals, there's no difference whatsoever. For them, it's all one place. This is also where Q was seen yesterday, the brother to Kunyuma, the male leopard we saw briefly this morning. And I think we've got a very good chance of finding him this afternoon. He didn't look like he was going to leave that area once. Walking in there, he sort of flushed out a little bit, but he didn't move like a leopard that's going to leave. He just moved like a leopard that saw there was a human close by and just gave a bit of space. He gave me a little bit of a warning bark, like just like bow, and just moved out. So my feeling was we immediately left him, and that he's going to probably stick around. So maybe this afternoon. In the meantime, as we get towards the end of the morning drive, we're just going to enjoy the view, see what goes along. Never know what you can find. I'm trying to remember. I didn't actually see where exactly they were yesterday, but I saw the pictures or the footage of the leopard up in the tree. One of these marilla trees along the road there. So yeah, enjoy and join us for the last part of the drive. Guys, keep in mind, if you have any questions, maybe something about Africa in general, about the area, Kruger National Park, Kunyuma that we're in, Arafuza, anything, maybe you're brand new and you're not sure if this is live, you can ask of this. If this, let's see this. Who of you sitting here at the moment are not sure if we're live? And we can explain to you that we are. And while we're seeing if there's anyone in the vehicle that might be skeptical whether this is actually live or not, as I said, if you are asked, we can prove it to you very easily. Just put your name and where you're from with it. Pat in Nebraska. Pat's asking, what's the difference or similarities between the climate where we are now and Namibia where I live? Well, firstly, Pat, nice to talk to you. Where I live in Namibia, we actually have very strange climate relative to the rest of the country. The same as you do in anywhere really. I mean, Nebraska would be different from Texas in a major way. Where I live in Namibia is right on the coast. It's from a climate habitat point of view, very interesting. It's one of the driest areas in the world. I think Walvis Bay is one of the 3 or 4 driest towns in the world. We don't get rain ever, but we get a lot of mist because we've got this cold Benguela current next to us, so we get mist every night, and the desert warms up every day. We've got this beautiful sand desert around us. As opposed to here, in some ways you can say that's similar. We've got a lot of humidity here as well. But the humidity that influences this area is coming from a different ocean altogether. We're on the Atlantic Ocean side, where Walvis in Namibia is. On this side, we have a warm ocean on that side, and that makes a big difference to rainfall, which is the main reason we've got a desert while this is this beautiful sort of game-rich savanna or mixed bushveld, really. Another similarity, I guess, well, not similarity, but you can compare it, is we do call this the low veld. And often people refer to this general area, Kruger National Park, and everything below the escarpment of the Drakensberg Mountains, which I'll actually try and show you. It's a little bit hazy today, but up ahead we've got a few gaps that you can see the escarpment. It's referred to as the low veld. Obviously the high veld on top of the mountains, low veld down below. But we're only about 300 meters. That's about 800 and something feet above sea level. So we're not very high up. Walvis Bay, where I live, my house is at sea level. I think literally, if we've got a lagoon and there's a break in between. But most of Walvis Bay, the town we live in, is at sea level or was even reclaimed. Some of it was below sea level. So both low-lying areas. But as for the low veld, this is one of my favorite climates and habitats in the world, and I've mentioned this many times to people before. When we were flying down, Hayden and myself flew down from Johannesburg to Hoedspruit, where Will fetched us, and I said to him just before we got out the plane, I said, it's one of my favorite things in the low veld. You climb out, and as that plane door opens, and as you step into it, you taste it, you feel it. It's like you walk into into the atmosphere. It's a very what's a good word for it? Poignant or very atmospheric. I mean, you get the sense of atmosphere around you in the low veld. You get the sense of oxygen. You get the sense of moisture, and I love that about the low veld. It feels very alive, which is also what tracks that we've got here. Some hyena tracks from last night, and some leopard tracks, but that's from the leopard nest that we walked across. So yeah, some similarities and differences between the desert on the west coast and the low veld, game-rich bushveld, sort of here on the southeastern coast, if you want, close to the southeastern coast. Well, this is fresh, actually. Guys, we're going to follow these tracks. I think there's one or two more questions. We'll answer one or two of those while we talk. And see, there's been a car over it, but that track is not from last night. Although he might have gone into Torchwood. Guys, we're going to keep following these leopard tracks a bit. They're quite interesting, but might have to walk around a little bit. And then, sorry, there was a question, but I really couldn't catch the name. It was a bit difficult. The radio's breaking up. I think it was Beth. Brian, could you make it out? A question from Maryland. Beth, and guys, please correct me if I'm wrong from control side, but just asking what the name Juma means. Juma. Beth from Maryland. The word Juma, which is the name of this reserve, D-J-U-M-A. So I have to explain it in two ways. It's loosely translated as the sound of a lion or the roar of the lion. You could almost say, you know, the herald of the lion. In Juma, more specifically, it would also mean tracking or stalking, actually, more specifically. So the movement of lion or the awareness of lion. So depending on where you want to sort of situate the meaning of the word in that explanation. The quick sort of catchphrase version would be roar of the lion for the lodge, for the place. But in the language itself, it can also refer more to stalking or tracking through the bush. Having said that, animals that don't stalk a lot through the bush, because they don't need to, they don't have to worry about anything around them. Enjoy it. HT is going to talk to you a little bit, and I'll probably see you just before end of drive to say goodbye.
Okay folks, well I found those ellies. They did come down to that water point, they did go down to Twin Dams, and we're just going to try and move on in here. Thanks mate. I'm alright buddy, thank you very much mate. It's alright to move on? Thanks mate. Thank you very much. Cheers mate, good to see you matey. So I'm just going to park up here folks. There's a little baby there, my goodness, I tell you, it's such a youngster, and I want you to see this, so I do apologise, I'm just manoeuvring my vehicle, and there's a couple of other vehicles here, and I'm going to just reverse up a little bit. Andrew, how am I there, mate? Good. Okay. All good. Ephraim, thanks buddy, thank you mate. The guys are so lovely. Does that look good for you, mate? You tell me when you want me to stop. Stop. Okay. How beautiful is that? Now look at that youngster, folks. When Andrew zooms in here, there is a very, very young baby standing underneath its mother's belly there. So tiny. It's not the one that's just walked off. It's even smaller. It's just about to stick its head out now. I think if you go Yeah, there we go, that little guy there. Oh my goodness, how small is that? So fantastic. Oh, that's beautiful to see, isn't it? Real beautiful. They lavish their youngsters in maternal care. It's just beautiful to see. And they're having a beautiful mud wallow there. So that is a breeding herd, folks, and you'll probably hear that term used a lot. Breeding herd refers to the matriarch and related females, cousins, and their offspring. And the bulls only actually come into the herd, and I know probably a lot of people already know this, but just for those of you that are learning about elephants, the bulls trail the herd if the females are in estrus, basically meaning whether they're in season or not. And normally the boys are off in either bachelor herds or solitary situations, and they only come into those herds to mate. So you normally see these strong, very, very tightly knit family groups or breeding herds, but that baby is tiny. Really, that's this year definitely, and still fitting underneath. Look at the size of that. Wow, beautiful. And it's still getting to know what the trunk is used for as well, which is a great thing. Always watching elephants figure out what that massive long appendage is hanging out from their head, and then they get to use that. They get to learn how to use that over a period of time, and to know that it's their most impressive tool in their anatomy. They just use that for everything, for feeding, for communicating, for drinking, for drawing water up and blowing into their mouth, dust bathing. And you can see the matriarch has just given the signal. She's the one at the front with that youngster. She's given the signal to move off, and everyone is moving off, and that's her offspring. Look at that little guy. Just over 100 kilos, or about 220 pounds when they're born. Maybe a bit heavier than that, but all depends on many things. But one thing I've never ever seen, and I don't think I've ever actually met anyone that's seen it in the wild, but I know loads of people have, but I've never met anyone that's seen an elephant give birth in the wild. Wow, that's beautiful. So that matriarch dictates everything. She dictates the moves silently, silently to us, communicating at a frequency that we can't even hear. And as soon as she makes the move, everyone moves. How wonderful is that? We might just move up and see if we can. We'll wait until they leave shot just here, and we'll just see then if we can still pick them up, because they look they're walking parallel to the road. But I'm just looking at my watch now, and we've got about 10 minutes to go. The sun is beating down here. Just to give you an update on, they're probably going to cross the road actually. They might even cross the road. We'll see. I'll keep an eye on them quickly, and I might have to keep turning away from camera, so bear with me. But just to give you a picture, as soon as that sun heats up and the wind dies down, you'll find that a lot of these animals will be looking for shaded areas under these beautiful big jackalberries or marula trees or whatever it may be, or the herds sometimes fall into these little valleys where they can get shade as well. When I say fall, walk into. Yeah, I think they are going to cross the road. So what we're going to do is be hugely respectful to this mother. She's going to be her toleration is probably, her tolerance, is going to be, a little bit, maybe a little bit shorter than other animals, because her youngster is so young. But at the same time, she's probably a very experienced female, and we can just get a really beautiful view. They may not cross the road, I'm not sure. They're feeding as they go. So I'm just going to pull up in this little bit of shade for us humans. And I I don't know if you can get to see anything in there. Andrew, can you see any shots? You've got a couple of animals moving through. Okay, well look, I think we just play our cards right here, and I'm just having a think about what to do, and looking down at my watch and wanting to place us in a lovely position here. I think if we just really gingerly walk up here, we don't want to surprise her, so she can hear me, and that's the most important thing. I can see the vegetation moving, and it's really important that you do not ever compromise the animal's behavior and change her direction or anything like that. And out of respect and just morals and ethics, I would never do it. But at the same time, you don't want to come around from behind a bush and startle her. That's why I'm leaving the engine running. She's probably going to be fine by the looks of things, but I'm just going to creep up a little bit more. It's alright, my girl. Easy, babe. Easy. So what I'm going to do, folks, is I might just cross over to Pete, see what he's up to, and so he can also say farewell, and just stick with these guys, and if they cross the road, we're in a perfect position now, and I'll come back to you. Okay, so we'll just do that. We'll be back with you just now.
Well guys, welcome back this side again, probably for the last time this morning. We just almost back at Buffelshoek Dam. We decided to come past here again. It is a waterhole, it's getting hot. So we're going to have a quick look here. Maybe there's another surprise. We were here about 10 minutes ago, 15 minutes ago. And then we're going to go back to Hayden and the elephants for the last part, unless there's, of course, a herd of leopards busy drinking or something. But it's been a lovely morning. I love the mornings, just to start with. It was beautiful early morning with the sunrise. We had Kunyuma as well, so we've seen in the last 12 hours, we've seen both the brothers, Q and K, or Q and Kunyuma, and lots to look forward to this afternoon. Lots of ellies around, that's great to know. Buffalo, obviously, we've seen quite a few of them. So do make sure you join us for the afternoon drive, and as always, such a pleasure to have you with us. Give it 2 seconds before we go back to H. Just arriving at the waterhole, and Impala in the distance. Guys, this waterhole, just on a quick footnote, there's the Impala. You're not really going to see them, they're running around in the bushes there, but this waterhole you will get to know very well this winter. There hasn't been that much rain, so towards the middle and end of winter, as it gets drier, it will get very, very productive around this waterhole. You will see big herds of buffalo, big herds of ellies. You will see a lot of leopard here, a lot of lion. So, sort of mark the spot for future reference. Otherwise, just thank you very much. It was an awesome drive. I really enjoyed it. Saw one of my favorite leopards. My name's Pieter Pretorius. It's a pleasure having you as our guest today. Brian behind the camera. Thanks, all the guys in control. Have a lovely morning, and enjoy your last few minutes with Hayden. See you this afternoon. Bye-bye.
Let's move on. Folks, they just a couple have crossed here. I'm just moving up in respectful distance, of course, so you can see them a little bit better, keeping an eye to my right because the rest of the herd is just here, and I don't want to ever come in between, but I do want you to see this little one cross the road with the mum. We had a question ever so quickly. We had a question from Sherry in Ohio. Hi Sherry, great to have you with us, and really great. Thanks for all your fantastic tweets and communication in the past as well. Sherry wants to know what the height of one of these females, or the tallest female, would be. It's probably about 8.5 feet, about 2.5 meters at the shoulder. That's roughly a guesstimate, and the male's obviously much taller. But this little youngster, I really want him to cross the way in front of us if we do. Stay here. There's a couple of them about to move across now. Just looking at my watch to making sure. This is beautiful. Look at that. Look at that. You might see me occasionally just turn over my shoulder and look around, folks. I promise you it's just out of respect for the animals that I'm not compromising their pathway, and just really sitting with these animals just till we close now. Absolutely beautiful. What a fantastic day. All I can say to you is thank you very much. It's been an absolutely brilliant morning for me. Elephants are one of my favorite creatures on the planet, and boy did we spend some time with them. Pete with all these fantastic little encounters with Kunyuma, and a really beautiful time. We're going to be back with you this afternoon. We've just got a vehicle that's pulled up behind us, so folks, I do apologise. We're going to be back with you this afternoon on the Sunset Drive. Please join us. It'd be great. If you've got any questions, tweet us at #SafariLive, or you can email us at questions@wildearth.tv. It's been brilliant. Really enjoyed your questions this morning. It's just a great morning, and wow, I tell you, look at this little guy. Beautiful stuff. The rest of the herd is just over here, and they're all going to pass across. So whilst they get into shadier areas this morning, we're going to get into a shadier area too. And again, thank you very much for being with us this morning, folks. It's been a really great morning to remember. Thank you so much, guys.